Hello and welcome to TBT Talks with me, Steve Hall. Just straight off the bat, I'll let you know, obviously, we've been recording in the Redmen TV studios the last few months, and it's been very nice. It's been good to get to see the guests face to face and what have you, and probably a little bit of better sound quality. But any Redmen TV fans will know the guys are currently in the process of moving studios, but because of that, and also because of the game against Besiktas was on Thursday, basically we couldn't get into the studio at time suitable. Really, the only time we might have got in would have been Saturday, and by then probably a bit too late to do anything. So we're going back to the old style of via the internet. So apologies in advance if the sound quality isn't great. But one benefit of doing it over the internet is that all my guests don't have to be in and around the northwest or in and around Liverpool, which is always, sometimes limits who we can and can't get on. So back for the first time in a long time, we've got two guys who long-time listeners will be very familiar with. We've got Jack Sear and we've got Mark Simpson. Basically, what we're going to do, we're going to talk a little tiny bit about Palace. It was a long time ago by the time you're listening to this, wasn't it? So, I imagine you're listening to this Friday, Saturday, so it was a long time. So we'll briefly skim over that. Then we'll go in depth on the Besiktas game. And then we'll do a look ahead to Southampton and probably a look ahead to the Besiktas second leg as well. Because I imagine it's going to be the same scenario next week. We'll probably record Friday via the same medium, just while the guys find themselves, new studios, get them all set up and what have you. Yep, so that's that anyway. So I say I'll crack on. We'll do Crystal Palace first, and Jack, it's been a while. I'll let you kick off. Just I guess without go, as I say, we won't go in depth player by player or what have you. But the Palace game without Liverpool, dominating scoreline wise, like 4-5-6s. It was a game that even at 1-0 down, I felt confident we were going to win, and it was nice to see that, and it was a massive change compared to the last visit to Selhurst where we got tonked.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been sort of a pattern of our play recently. Whereas last season you might have seen us very sort of trying to outscore teams. This season we've still got that same sort of threat up front, but we actually look very solid at the back as well. Like you say, very patient in the build-up play. Yesterday against Besiktas was the same. Got to the 80th minute, still hadn't scored, but you still thought, with the players that he was bringing off the bench, Rodgers, that we had a real good chance of scoring, and that's exactly what happened against Palace as well. Like you say, probably didn't deserve to be 1-0 down at half-time. Bit unfortunate at the goal, but you had every confidence that, likes of Sturridge and Balotelli when he came on the pitch, that we would eventually score. The quality really sort of shone through second half, and brilliant volley from Sturridge, fantastic pick out from Henderson, and like you say, it was all very nicely sort of patient and very controlled. And we do seem like a side at the moment that is in control of a game, even when we may not be up. I mean, it was the same against Chelsea in the two League Cup games. I think anyone who watched that would say, probably we deserve to win that over the two legs. But obviously they've got a very good defence, Chelsea. But it's good to see at the moment just how sort of in control of our performances we are.
And Mark, Jack used the word solid there, and I think that is something that we can touch upon. It's been like this for a while now, and like I mentioned before, Palace away was pretty much near enough as low as it got, and we looked anything but. We looked like we could concede 5-6. We were lucky to get away with 3. I thought I was there, and every time they went forward, I thought they were going to score. But I agree with Jack. Even though we're not, putting teams to the sword, we haven't got that soft underbelly anymore. And I know you're a guy who's big on clean sheets and big on defence, and it is very nice to see.
Yeah. Since the Manchester United game, it's been pretty much an amazing turnaround. Like I said, I've spoken about it a while. Like this change in formation not only benefits a few players within the team, I think it benefits a vast majority of the squad, and you can just sort of fit any number of players in any number of positions within this 3-4-3 lineup, and like players can just slot in, which has been really encouraging. And Palace showed, like even going a goal behind, like Jack said, and like yourself has said, that the team played well, and the result itself, I believe, was massive, not only for the club because it's progressing to the next round of the FA Cup, but I think on a personal note for someone like Brendan Rodgers as well, because this fixture ever since last May has just proven to be a real tricky one. And I think mentally within the club, it was really good to get that fixture out of the way and get a positive result. Roger spoke about it afterwards, and it just feels like just getting that monkey off the back, and not only going to Palace and getting the win, but dominating in the way they did, looking solid, and and players coming off the bench, putting in big performances like your Mario Balotelli's, even someone like Dejan Lovren coming on for 11 minutes and just doing really well. Simon Mignolet, another player who is just, since that Manchester United sort of time of our season, has come on leaps and bounds, and it's just really big for everyone at the club, and it's really been good to see. And Palace, like watching the result, like Jack said, it was showing that mentality like we did last year. Even though we were going a goal behind, they didn't panic, they didn't wilter, they came back stronger, and they were deserved winners in the end.
And Jack, I'll come to you, obviously, with the FA Cup being what it is, and since obviously then we've got a home draw against Blackburn and a game away from Wembley. It is massive, I think, isn't it, that Brendan Rodgers he needs to probably win a trophy sooner or later, Jack, because that's always something that is levelled against him. What's he ever done? What's he ever won? And now I must admit, winning the FA Cup isn't the be all and end all, and it doesn't mean you're a great manager if you can win an FA Cup. But I suppose every manager has to start somewhere. I remember Mourinho's first Chelsea trophy, for example, was the Carling Cup. I think Man City done the same. They won the FA Cup, didn't they, before they went on to bigger and better things. And if you can get that trophy and get that medal, and obviously what it means for Steve Gerrard as well, it'll be a massive weight off Brendan's shoulders. It's probably the one thing that he needs to do, and needs to do fairly soon.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you mentioned he said it's a priority from the start of this season, and you mentioned there the Mourinho's first one being the Carling Cup. And I think Rodgers actually referenced that not so long ago in one of his press conferences, saying that he feels that once this Liverpool team has got a trophy under its belt, it will kick on and sort of have a domino effect for more success in the future. He said, because obviously he was at Chelsea under Mourinho as one of the academy coaches, and he said that was, witnessing that and being with the team, he really saw an effect on the players in it. And he said this season that he feels the same can happen at Liverpool. And I think, like you say, it is setting up. I think at the moment, on form, I think we're the best team sort of in form in that competition at the moment. I mean, the draw's gone our way. Even the Manchester United being at home and Arsenal being away. I think people would say they'd rather have United than Arsenal in the FA Cup if we do eventually get them. So with Arsenal being away, even that's worked out well. We've got a home draw, which I don't think we've had in the FA Cup so far, have we? I don't think we've had a home game.
Well, yeah, we had the Bolton game, didn't we? Obviously, it went to a replay.
Oh, of course, yeah. But no, the draw's definitely gone our way, and I think we've got a real good chance of pushing on. Like you say, it's one game from Wembley, really, and once you're there, anything can happen. And the squad's really starting to come together with Sturridge back, and Gerrard, and Lucas should be fairly close by then. So big opportunity to do well, and I think it would be a really big bonus if we can get a trophy this season, like you say.
Yeah, certainly, I agree. It's something I think we all want, and although priorities do lie elsewhere, just because you prioritise something less doesn't mean that you don't give it your all to try and win it. And I think we'll park Palace there just because, as I say, there's no point dwelling on it too much. I imagine people have had all the analysis they can take on Palace for the last week or so. So we'll move on to Besiktas. And Mark, I'll come to you. Brendan pretty much picked the strongest team. It was a manager renowned for resting players even in the knockout stages of the Europa League. But I guess the main thing to say is UEFA have got kind of what they wanted. UEFA wanted for Liverpool and for all the big teams start playing the real players in it. And that's why they put the Champions League place up for grabs. And you can tell now teams are taking it very, very seriously. And Brendan, although we've got big games coming up, Southampton at the weekend and City isn't too far away either, he wasn't scared to put his best 11 on the pitch.
No, yeah, well, it was really interesting to see what the lineup was an hour before kickoff, because there wasn't really any sort of team leaks prior, or there's no sort of rumours of players being rested. And Brendan went for it. He put out his strongest team, and it was a good result. It worked in the end. Players like Coutinho got like an hour or just over an hour under their belt, and people like Lallana and Allen got more game time, and Sturridge as well, and used the bench well. I think the double sub when it happened was obviously pre-planned, and obviously Mario comes on and he scores the winning penalty under somewhat controversial circumstances at the time. But like I say, he's used he's played his strongest team. Whether that turns out to be a good decision regarding the Southampton game only this weekend will show. But he's got one of the best sports science teams behind him, and obviously he knows what he's doing, and he's picked that team for a reason. And if he can get away with it at this time of the year of playing a strong team, or playing a core of 7 to 8 players out of your 11 starting every week, then then quality, keep on doing it, because at the moment our form is some of the best in Europe. And although it may have been surprising for some, if anybody were to log on to Twitter an hour before kickoff, there's a lot of people pleased that he's played his strongest 11. Some people fuming that he's played the strongest 11. End of the day, it's all about getting the result that matters. And like I say, came out with a very positive result, clean sheet, goal going into the second leg. So win-win really for everyone concerned.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And Jack, I'll come to you on the starting lineup before we actually go into the game itself. I suppose, in a way, the manager's hands are pretty much tied around some areas. Obviously, Markovic's ban obviously hasn't helped anyone. We're without Gerrard. We're without Lucas, through injury. So I suppose there's a couple of players maybe you could bring in. I suppose Balotelli and Lovren are the main two, aren't they? I don't think anyone else is really knocking the door down at the moment. So although we have got a big squad and it's there and the depth is there, obviously another one we're without Kolo Touré, but is not due back. I don't think he's back for this weekend, I think. Now it's kind of like, well, although the squad's there and the backups are decent, the likes of Enrique isn't the worst backup ever, Manquillo, Barini, Lambert, they are backup players. They're there, but I don't think any of them are really knocking the manager's or forcing the manager's hand to be in the team. Probably bar Balotelli at the moment. So, although we're praising the manager for picking a strong team, does he really have a choice?
Yeah, I think at the moment, it's them front three positions where he's got the most options and where he seems to be rotating it. I mean, for that Besiktas game last night, like Mark said, there wasn't really any leaks or sort of hints from Rodgers as to what he was going to do. After his performance against Palace, there was quite a few calls for Balotelli to get a start. And he went with Lallana, and quite a few people, including myself, were fairly surprised that he went with Coutinho again, who's just started to look a little bit tired last couple of games. So it's in that area where he has got quite a lot of options, and certainly with Sterling returning now, and Markovic can play in the Premier League game, so he'll be available for Southampton this weekend. That's where he's got the options. Behind that, like you say, Lucas and Gerrard out. He has got players like Emre Can, who of course can literally pretty much play anywhere, and I think that was a very clever. The two subs he did last night, like you mentioned, Lovren and Balotelli, I think that was a very clever move for him to bring Can into midfield. I think he just brings that extra bit of quality in there than Allen, slightly more creative, sort of all-round player. And I think that was a big reason why we went on to actually win the game, because Emre Can, as you can see, is going to be a big player for us, and he can certainly dictate your game from the middle. So we've got options there, and even with Markovic out, I think I would be playing ahead of him at the moment. Man of the match yesterday again, and we've been talking about him for a couple of years now. We've seen him coming up, and we knew that at some point he was going to come through, and he's certainly doing that now. And some people are fairly surprised that he's sort of tearing teams apart at the moment, but I think certainly me and yourself, Steve, having watched him last couple of years, aren't too surprised at all. He's one of the best about at beating a player, and it was just about him finding that end product, and I think he's starting to do that now, and he's also shown a lot of versatility. So, there is really good options there for Rodgers, and he has got the opportunity to change it up. Certainly the system is very flexible, and there's a lot of players that can play in a lot of positions in that system.
Yeah, you're right about we have any long-term listeners or readers of this will know Jordan and I, and with the youth team coverage we do use and do produce, he has been, him along with probably maybe Shea Ojo, Jordan Roster have been the three that everyone's been banging the drum on for some time, and I wouldn't be surprised if all three of those in the not too distant future are all Liverpool first team players. But if you go into the game itself, then Mark, it was a kind of game where the one criticism that everyone's aimed at Brendan, another one, bar the trophy thing, is can he win a tight European game? Can he win a European game? What's he like over two legs? Because his two-legged record, I don't think is particularly great, is it? I think we've lost it every time pretty much we've played in one.
Yeah, it's not been the best.
Yeah, I think I remember Zenit knocking us out over two legs. Obviously, Chelsea knocked us out over two legs the other day, and for the first time, again, and we're going back to the solidity. It was a European performance where we were the better team, but we were playing against a good Besiktas side. They were a really good side, but again, bar his chance. We kept them pretty quiet, and I didn't ever feel like I felt worst case here we might get a 0-0. I think that's the worst case. Where in the past I always thought, that soft underbelly and a team nicking a away goal, kind of like Chelsea did it, didn't they? And in the past, Zenit got one when Hulk got his goal, and we had to try and fight back. So it was again that solidity and the way we've set up. It answered a few questions in terms of does Brendan know how to play two-legged football. It turns out, well, he can.
I think something that really is in his favour right now is that he's come across this formation, which is, it's very hard to play against, very hard to set your team up against, and I think this is going to be probably, it could be a winning formula for him, especially in Europe, because so many times last night we were getting in behind or in that danger area. We're getting the ball to dangerous players like Coutinho and Lallana, Moreno, Ibe in that final third. And yeah, Besiktas are a good team at the top of the league. They had a pretty rough sort of trip over to Liverpool. The weather in Istanbul hasn't been the best, and I think we caught them at a pretty decent time. Definitely did the homework on Besiktas, and Ibe every chance was getting at their left back, who doesn't look very good at all. And you can tell Slaven Bilic's team very solid, looking to play on the counter. That bar chance could have gone either way, but luckily we've got Mignolet in form at the moment, and Bar was a little, he had to take that shot out of the box, had to take it a little bit earlier than he would have liked, ideally. But I think they came for a 0-0, or they came to nick a goal on the break of play, and Liverpool went to win the game without conceding. And it's all about learning. Rodgers isn't being the best in a cup competition. Even Swansea fans, when he came to Liverpool, saying, Brendan Rodgers isn't the type of manager who you try and win a cup competition with, if that makes sense, over two legs. If you need to get that last sort of goal or nick a result, he's not been the best at it. But he's a young manager; he's got to learn somehow. And obviously, Zenit was a decent. He has been in this competition before. Zenit would have been a strong learning point and a good lesson for him. And like I said at the start, this formation, it could be, it could be that little difference that just means that when it comes up shaping against teams like Besiktas or whoever if we get through this tricky away leg next week, that it could be something that just gives us that sort of one-up, that gives us that slight advantage playing against these teams. And like I said, the game itself, you never felt in danger. Bar had that one chance, but apart from that, he got tired very quickly, and they were pretty sort of short on ideas, an attacking sort of sense, and Liverpool took advantage. The only slight qualm that I had, or any negative aspect I have of the game, is that when we got into those attacking areas, or where we looked like we were about to pounce and create a good chance, if that just final ball wasn't there, Coutinho, like Jack said, is looking a little tired. I was very surprised to see him start over Balotelli, but obviously he started for a reason. And you can tell sort of about the 50-minute mark, he was really getting tired. But luckily we're not a one-man team, and you know, Lallana's coming to a bit of form. Ivy's definitely in form. Mourinho's really picking up, and you know, we've got people on the bench now like your Balotellis who can come on, and you know, it was a game where you never felt that Liverpool were going to lose. It was just a case of if we could have got that goal, and luckily we did. And you know, moving forward to next week, if we can get the first goal, that's effectively tie pretty much over. So no, really happy with how it all panned out, and you know, no injuries as of note. So yeah, going into the game on Sunday, pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Mark where he says just on the system there, where he says the sort of it can be our winning formula, if you like. I mean, the formula he found last year that worked was sort of getting as many attacking, you know, emphasis on attack. He even put Gerrard in that controlling role to try and get the passes through to the sort of explosive attackers. But this sort of season, as we've already mentioned, this system allows us to have a similar sort of threat up top, but with the three at the back and the two sort of controlling players, we also look very solid. And I think that combined with sort of there's little things with Rodgers that he seems to sort of notice. I noticed after the game against Palace, he said about obviously the Lallana goal came as a result of him following up a free kick. I heard him say after the game that they'd actually spotted that from previous Palace games, that they all sort of stand in a line from free kicks and they're all pretty static and not too fast to react. And it's little things like that with Rodgers that I think, you know, that combined with sort of his knowledge of the game can really push us on. And I think we've got a very good manager. I mean, it did surprise me at the start of the season. I mean, yes, things weren't going our way, and I think if it wasn't for the Sturridge injury, things wouldn't have turned out that way. And it's really good now to finally see that we're getting back to our old ways, and he seems to have confidence now that we'll be able to go a whole season next season in this sort of fashion.
I think in a crazy way, Rodgers may have needed that shocking start to sort of realise the error of his ways. You highlighted the Sturridge injury, but yeah, and it was a shocker, and it came at a really bad time, and like the setbacks that he suffered. But I personally feel like he came out of the summer like he thought he was better than he actually was. He was walking around on cloud nine. It was Billy Big Balls and he made a lot of errors on the back of that. And you know, it doesn't need me to tell it. It was obvious where his errors were lying. You know, constantly sticking with playing Lovren and Skirtle as our centre back pairing when it wasn't working. You know, overlooking certain players in the squad who now are in the squad, and certain things were, you know, overplaying of certain players like Gerrard and whatnot in a formation that weren't working. He was persisting with it. I think obviously he had a realisation after the Palace result, after the Basel result, after the United result, where a lot of Liverpool fans, and myself included, thought that was it, thought he was gone. And, you know, certain people within the club maybe would have thought the same. This is where he deserves a lot of credit. He has turned it around. And the most frustrating thing for myself watching that game last night is if that team, that formation, that style would have played against Basel, would have been playing in the Champions League this week or next week, this round, and not in the Europa League. And I think that's the most like infuriating thing. And players like Sturridge must be fuming because they played so well last year to get themselves into the Champions League. And when they got there, they put in such a piss poor performance, and we're now back in the Europa League because of it. Fortunately, if we do well in the Europa League, and we win the thing, then it's a chance that we can, you get that Champions League spot back, because the league is anything but secure that we're going to get like the top 4 position at the moment. So, you know, it's like Jack said, the Sturridge injury was a major negative point, but I think it was just like one things of many that alluded to the fact that how our start was so poor, and you know, he's playing catch up now because of it. But the point I just was going to quickly make was it's been really intriguing and interesting to see that out of the last 3 games, 2 of the winners have come in the last 10 minutes of a game, which shows that our fitness, even though we are pretty much picking the same team and a lot of players are playing matches in a row, our fitness is still pretty sharp. And I don't know if this is designed by fault or done on purpose, but our fitness at the start of the season always does look to be a little bit like slow. And it gets a lot better in the second half of the season. I don't know if this is some of it's done by Rodgers and his sports scientist team on purpose. So in the business end, you've got the majority of players who can play week in, week out. But it'd be something very interesting if someone could follow up someone who knows a lot more about the sports science of the game, if this is something that teams do on purpose. Because it's, to me, the last couple of games, it's been really telling how our fitness has prevailed massively. Like we say, with winners against Spurs in the last 10 minutes and the winner last night in the last 10 minutes as well.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe they're doing a little bit of, I think Barcelona did it under Pep Guardiola, a bit of periodisation where you plan your team basically to be fit in at this stage of the season. I don't think it's a coincidence that this is the third season under Rodgers now, where post Christmas we look like a stronger team, fitter team.
Yeah. Like let's say last year, I remember like the first sort of 5 or 6 games of last year when we were grinding out results. Like we were literally going to win the game in the first half, and then the second half just sort of sitting back, inviting pressure, and it worked, because we were grinding out those 1-0 wins at Villa and at home to United, and then in the second half of the season we just exploded and we were blowing away teams, from sort of January onwards, and obviously Rodgers won't give out his training ground secrets, but it's been quite telling the last 3 games that we've in 2 of them, we've won games in the last 10 minutes, and this is maybe why he is playing his strongest team at the moment and not doing much rotation, because the players are at their peak fitness and can cope with it.
Yeah, you're probably right there, mate. It wouldn't surprise me. So, like I say, Liverpool, very fit, strong team. I agree. It's a great point that Mark's brought up there. And if we start looking, we'll rather than talk about individuals, Jack, we'll talk as units. So we'll speak about so we'll start at the back and we'll say, goalkeeper and defender yesterday. I thought the goalkeeper once again was top class. Well, the Demba Ba save in particular was a very good one. Shame he couldn't do that a few months ago, but maybe he's learned his lesson. Thought Sakho and Skirtle were pretty much decent, strong. I thought Chan struggled a little bit. I'm not sure if it's a fatigue issue, like we mentioned. Maybe he's a bit overconfident. Maybe they've decided to pick on him. It was strange to see his passing. His passing was really poor. The one to Demba Ba with the back pass in particular, and it just seemed like he was the only one who struggled, Jack. But on the whole, defensively, they were fine. Just maybe with the ball, maybe Chan in particular was just a yard off the high standards he set over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that's we've been talking about how solid we've been as a team, and there's been a lot of calls for Rodgers to put Chan in midfield without Gerrard and Lucas there. But I think he's obviously kept him there, knowing that recently we've been very solid at the back. Sakho's really starting to prove. I think he's having his best sort of period of games since he's been at Liverpool. He's stayed injury-free, touch wood, and I think Skirtle as well. I think he's really benefited from having 2 players either side of him who are both sort of good on the ball, but at the same time can defend very well. And also he has 2 sort of solid players in front who have more sort of concentrate more on defending than they do going forward. So as you mentioned, Mignolet, just totally different sort of keeper last few weeks. I think that that moment first half where Demba Ba went through was obviously everyone's saying it was very similar to the Chelsea incident last year, and I think it was, and it showed, fantastic save, I thought. I mean, he's made some brilliant saves. There's one from Lamela the other week, and that's always been Mignolet's strong point, the shot stopping. And I remember when Rodgers bought him, he said, look, you want your goalkeeper to be able to stop goals first. I mean, there's a lot of things said about his distribution and stuff, but even that's really improved in recent weeks, and it's very good to see. I think it's, it's probably been our best sort of period of defending that Rodgers may have had during his time here, and it's good to see, because it's been such a concern for so long. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, this system may be the way to try and get the defence sorted. Yeah,
mate. I think system is a big reason for it. I think individual performances as well, probably a combination of the two. I think you're right. Maybe one's helping the other. But all in all, okay, I am much more confident that we're not going to ship goals. And even last season I couldn't have said that, even when we were one of the best teams in the country in Europe. I always felt we could concede. So that's the centre halves. Well, back three done. Mark, come to you next on the next group of players, and Jack's already mentioned earlier about Jordan Ibe and how good he's been. If we talk about the full backs, I thought obviously Ibe man of the match, outstanding again, wins the penalty, and I thought it was Moreno, one of his better games. I think he's been one who's been very hot and cold, but I thought Liverpool tried to involve him more, and he on the whole he attacked fairly well. I still don't know if his end product's completely there at the moment, but I thought after he's had a little bit of a dip in form, maybe I thought he played well. So as a combination, it was good to see that they were probably our main attacking threats all game.
Yeah, no, I think with this 3-4-3 formation, the wing backs are more wing than back, and players like, I mean, when Markovic was first put there on the wing backs, you're thinking, what's going on here? Because he's not a player who's renowned for tracking back and helping his defensive side. But in this formation, Rodgers isn't really bothered about that. Where other teams are playing these 3-5-2s or 3-4-3 formations, the players that are at their sort of wing-back roles are more defensive-minded players who are asked to do a bit of an attack. And Moreno would normally fall under that, but he was bought, and that Spurs game shown that he has got a lot of attacking flair when needs be. And I think it's taken him a couple of games to get used to this formation. Because it's not so much a left-back role, it's definitely more a left midfield role where you have to get up and down. And luckily, he's a very fit guy. He can get up and down, and he's definitely played well because of it. And he's got that goal as well against Swansea, so he can have a strike when needs be. He definitely hasn't got a trick in him like someone like Ibe or Markovic or Sterling, who can play on the wing backs, has, but he's been very solid. I ideally, if Markovic wouldn't have been banned for this game, I have a feeling that Markovic may have gone on that left wing back role, maybe just to give Moreno a rest, but also as well just to add something else at home against a team like Besiktas, who are going to sit back, because then you've literally got Markovic on one side, Ibe on the other, who will just run and run and run at your fullbacks. Because the way we have it at the moment, one of the wing back positions sort of gets sort of ignored. When it was we had a fellow right wing back, and Moreno was always getting the ball, or if it's always on Jordan Ibe's side, and Moreno would be getting an odd. It's just a case of where we've got players who luckily can run with the ball and run with the ball at pace and beat a man. And Jordan Ibe last night, I think it was definitely designed to get at their left back, because Jordan Ibe had him on toast all night long. He obviously got the penalty as well, drew a lot of fouls, but took him on and did really well. The good news is that if sort of Ibe's not available, then we have Markovic. If Markovic is available, we've got Ibe. Sterling can play there as well if needs be. And I think ideally, if everybody were fit, I think Rodgers would, like at home against teams like that, like I say, go with Markovic and Ibe, or Markovic and Sterling over maybe a Moreno, because it just gives them that extra attacking threat. And tactically speaking, watching the game as well, whenever Moreno gets the ball, the first thing that Coutinho does when those two are on the side, Coutinho is always looking then to do a diagonal run into where the fullbacks come out of, so to drag the centre back out. And more often than not, you're getting Coutinho getting in behind their defence in that position, because it's just a Sacco to Moreno to up the line pass to Coutinho has made that run, and it works so many times because defenders and defensive coaches who are sort of trying to line their teams up against Liverpool don't know how to combat it. And I think that's one of the most pleasing things with this formation, is that it's a really hard formation to play against, and Rodgers has got his team playing at its peak in this position and in this formation. And going back to what I said before, in a European competition like this, it'll catch a lot of teams out, and like I say, long may it continue, and hopefully we can get past Besiktas to see how it goes in the next round.
Definitely, mate, definitely. And we're a little bit pressed for time, so we'll try and hurry through this. Jack, just a quick mention on the midfield too. Henderson and Allen. Allen in particular is coming for a little bit of criticism recently, but pretty solid game all round from the pair of them.
Yeah, I think I think people are sort of quick to criticise Alan, but I think he does do a job. I think he's a handy squad player. We've seen a number of times since he's been at Liverpool, he's actually quite good off the bench to calm things down a bit. And like I say, what Rodgers has started to introduce as well is, I noticed he did it against Palace. He's sort of, as he's put to fit Balotelli into the team, he's just moved to having one holder and then two in front, be it Henderson or Coutinho, or Henderson and Lallana usually. And so that's something that we might see a bit more of now. But as I said earlier, the midfield two have really helped out the defence, been very solid, and Henderson in particular has got the legs to get forward and offer an attacking threat as well. And players like Emre Can can sit there and dictate. So I think them two, Henderson and Allen last night, did really well, yeah.
Yeah, mate, I agree. Sorry, but I'll delay that. Just looking then, Mark, we mentioned earlier, I'll come back to you again. Almost doing this in turn by turn, but that isn't by design, it's just how it's coming to be. But I suppose the guys who played in behind in Dan Sturridge, so it was Lallana and Coutinho. Like you mentioned before, Coutinho looked maybe half a yard, maybe a little bit tired, he's played a lot of games. Lallana, I thought was alright again. I think people maybe sometimes get a little bit down on Lallana. Maybe it was the price tag. I don't know. Maybe he's a bit in and out, isn't he? He's not being that consistent. Yeah. Probably injuries haven't helped him there. But those two, I suppose, less effective. It's hard to be too effective in that position when a team are parking the bus. But possibly Liverpool could have got a little tiny bit more, especially Coutinho. But that again, I'm putting that down to fatigue more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, those two last night. I think going on to Lallana first, he's definitely a player who needs a run of games to get his to get his peak sort of performance level. He's like Joe Allen in that extent, where he needs like a run of games. And players like Joe Allen and players like Adam Lallana will be the first ones that the fans get on their back because they're not your standout flair players like Coutinho, etc. Players like Lallana and players like Joe Allen, you need in your squad first and foremost because they just get a job done. They're 6, 7 out of 10 consistently. They won't do anything amazing. They won't ever drastically let you down, but they'll just get the job done. And Lallana, his peak performances are like your ones against Swansea. In the games that you wish to forget, they're the ones like the one against like last night, for example. It wasn't anything amazing, but it was a game where it was solid. Coutinho, yeah, he did look a little bit tired, but still he was causing them problems. It didn't help that he was getting kicked off the park in every way, shape or form. But there's one tackle last night, which if he'd have made contact with Coutinho, could have done some damage. Obviously, teams are highlighting this guy as our danger man, and rightly so, because he's a magician when he is in full flow. The good thing about the way we set up and our style and this 3-4-3 again is that with these two positions behind Sturridge is that we have got a lot of players who can come in and play this role when required. Lallana and Coutinho can play there. Obviously, Sterling Markovic can play there. Mario Balotelli could even do a job there. Jordan Ibe could do a job there. Steven Gerrard can do a job there. So we've got a lot of players who can come into that formation. And the guys last night, like I said, happy with them. Like you said, the team came and they did park the bus. Apologies for that football cliche, but it was a case of where last night there wasn't a lot of space for Coutinho or for Lallana to sort of get that pass in for Sturridge. But when required, when it was needed, they did almost what they need to do. It's just that final little ball that was off last night. But I'd go with them both again on Sunday if they're fully fit and ready to go.
Yep, and Jack, finally, I suppose, just briefly, little mention of Dan Sturridge. He got a little bit of criticism, maybe looked a little bit selfish at times, wasn't releasing, went for the odd shot when he probably should have passed, but he got through 90 minutes, which is a massive boost to Liverpool, the first time he's done that since the injury, and it's only a matter of time before Dan Sturridge is scoring regular goals again.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think it's just taken him a little while to... he's been fantastic since he's been back, but he can get even better. Before his injury, he's literally you can't get the ball off him. And I think he likes playing next to in a front two as well with Balotelli. It means he can drop back and get involved a bit more, which he's very good at. I mean, he can do the whole off the shoulder, just running in behind job very, very well. But he's very, very good on the ball. And I think as he gets more minutes under his belt, he got his first 90 last night, like you say. I dare say he'll start again on Sunday, and he'll start getting back into the swing of things now. And such a good player to have back, and his qualities undoubted. He'll get a lot more goals for us between now and the end of the season if he stays fit.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose in a minute we'll talk about the penalty. If anyone gives a toss about all that, we might. I'll leave that up to you guys. But I suppose the last person we should talk about then. Fair play, Sterling. Come on, didn't really impact the game too much. Nice to see him back. Lovren was pretty much solid. Done a good job. I thought he was good in the air, especially at times. But Mark, we might as well talk about Balotelli. And we'll leave the pen incident aside for a minute. As soon as he come on, first of all, Daniel Sturridge looked much more happier. I thought Daniel Sturridge had much more space. Balotelli held the ball up really well. I'm not sure he gave the ball away at all. He wins fouls. It looks like both of them are better when you're the ones on the pitch. I don't know if you'd agree.
Yeah, no, he looks like he's arsed again, and I think that's the best way to sort of describe it. I know Roger said it looked like the penny had dropped recently, but I think he just looks like he's asked again to play football for Liverpool. I don't know the ins and outs, or I don't know him personally or anything around it, but he just looked like in January that he wanted to leave. Maybe because he's not playing, maybe because he's had a bit of a falling out with Rodgers. Like, their sort of relationship has been pretty much up and down since he arrived. But all of a sudden, he gets that winning goal against Spurs, makes a good contribution coming off the bench at Palace, and he scores the goal last night. But more importantly, he puts in a good performance. And you're right, Sturridge plays at his peak when he's got somebody not up alongside him, so to speak, but he's got another forward in that starting lineup. It doesn't mean that he can't play as the lone striker, because we all know he can, but it just means that he gets that little bit extra space from defenders when someone like a Balotelli is there. I've never seen a guy who can draw free kicks as much as someone as Mario Balotelli. He's very, very good at doing so.
Mark, do you think that's just because people want to kick him?
Yeah, that, but he's also very clever, and he's obviously learnt his trade in Italian football, who are the masters at drawing free kicks. And players do want to kick him because he's very frustrating. As frustrating he would be to play football with. I mean, I would personally hate to play football with someone like Mario Balotelli, because it just you'd be talking to him, he's nodding, it's going in one ear straight out the other. But he's an amazing footballer, so you just put up with it. But it'd be just as hard and annoying to play against. And when someone like Mario Balotelli comes off the bench, compared to, say, if Ricky Lambert came off the bench, Besiktas defenders are like, this is the fella we've got to get. We've got to watch him, And he just draws that attention, maybe because of his daft moustache, but he just draws this attention to him. And you're right, instantly Daniel Sturridge was able to get a bit more space and just enjoy himself a bit more. And I think Mario Balotelli likes having someone like Daniel Sturridge around. It was so telling back end of last year, like when we went away to Bâle, and it was Balotelli up front with Sterling behind him. Balotelli was doing what Balotelli does, and him and Sterling just were not getting on. You could tell, like, players in the Liverpool team do not like playing with him, but someone like Daniel Sturridge will tell Balotelli when he's acting up, or tell him when he needs to, get his arse into gear. And I think as good as Sturridge likes having someone like Balotelli around, I think Balotelli likes having someone like Sturridge around. And it's and it has been good to have them both on the pitch at the same time in the last two games.
No, I agree. You're right there. And,
yeah, I see.
And Jack, Mark, Jack, if I come to you very quickly. The penalty thing, it's storming a teacup, really. I suppose Balotelli's a little bit naughty for trying to take the pen off them. Probably a little bit of miscommunication, because the manager has said, well, Jordan was the pen taker, but then when Balotelli comes on, he's probably the pen taker. It was, I guess it was all, as I say, storming a teacup, and I suppose everyone, including Henderson, dealt with it pretty well, and obviously Balotelli scores the pen, so means justify the ends, I guess. Sorry, the ends justify the means. again, I suppose it's media driven more than anything. I'm not sure the players, and Brendan said today he's not that fussed by it really. Just one of those things that, you know, if it missed, it's a disaster. But A, two questions. You know, your thoughts on Balotelli taking the ball, and B, why the hell is Balotelli not just automatically giving the ball because he should be?
Yeah, well, I think, like you say, it's been blown way out of proportion, really. I think Rodgers basically confirmed today that, you know, he said that when they're on the pitch, the order of the penalty takers are, if they're all on, Gerrard, then Balotelli, then Henderson. And obviously Henderson had started and thought, right, well, Balotelli didn't, so it's probably me to take it. And Balotelli sort of rightly came in and snatched, I mean, you can say snatched it off him. I think, obviously, what didn't help is that, you know, he might have a few reasons for doing it, but I don't think much would have been made of it if Gerrard hadn't said in the studio afterwards about Balotelli coming over and snatching it off him, and that, you know, he didn't like it. But I think he obviously knows that Henderson's gonna, you know, is likely to be the captain next season. I think Balotelli should have taken it. Yeah, to answer your first question, certainly over Henderson. I mean, Henderson always sort of steps up and for free kicks and that, and, you know, a lot of the time he hits the wall. I mean, he's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but set pieces and that, I'm not too sure. I think he obviously practices them in training. You always see him in training videos and pictures him over set pieces, and they obviously think he can do it quite well, but in matches, yes, that hasn't really happened. And
I think he will come good though, Jack. I do. I think the technique is there. Like he almost scored one last night, and I think it's just a case of in-game practice. You know, unfortunately, you don't get that many chances to have in-game free kicks. You know, without every single one being scrutinised. But you know, he has got a very good delivery. Like, he scored a goal last year against Tottenham where he went straight in from a free kick delivery, and I think he has got it in him. Last night, massive. It's been made. The reason why it's been made such a big deal is because of Steven Gerrard, which is disgusting, seeing that he's the team captain on national media. He could have easily brushed aside that question, but he was obviously quite worked up about it at the time, and he's obviously given an honest answer. But with all the media training that fella's had, he should have known just to sort of batter it away. Brendan Rodgers has come out today and poured cold water over it, and matters solved. I guarantee that would have been a bit of a fume last night in the change rooms, but as soon as it got to the training ground today, they'd have been laughing and joking about it. And the only people that will keep peppering on about this and trying to draw reaction are TalkSport, Sky Sports, people who want people to interact, spend their money to phone in at these high premium calls and for people to give their opinions on it, when realistically they're talking about it a lot more than the actual people that matter, which is the people at the club. And that's it. End of the day, Mario Balotelli is stepped up, put the ball away in the back of the net, as 99.9% of Liverpool fans thought he was going to do, and the game was won. There was just a breakdown of communication. It happens, especially something like this. If Steven Gerrard was on the pitch, he would have taken it. And Jordan Henderson dealt with it brilliantly after the game. But as soon as the commentator, as soon as it cut away from Jordan Henderson, went back to the studio, Steven Gerrard just went against all common logic and just dismissed and basically made Jordan Henderson look silly. And I'm glad Brendan Rodgers didn't have a chat with ITV afterwards, because Steven Gerrard would have just confused the whole even more. So it'll probably be forgotten about come Sunday. It'll be very funny if Liverpool get a penalty on Sunday now, but like I say, come Monday morning, people will be fuming against someone else.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I agree. I think Gerrard was a little bit naughty. I remember Stephen Naismith went on the telly after Morales done the same thing, took a pen off Baines, and like I say, Stephen Naismith just poured fire on. He said, "Oh, no issue, blah 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 blah." You could tell he wasn't happy. You could tell, but I suppose, and he isn't even the club captain. You know what I mean? Steve Gerrard's the club captain, and I'm not sure what anyone gains out of that, other than, you know, Steve Gerrard looks a little bit good on the telly, but it's not like he's going to be a media or a pundit anytime soon, because he's going to America to play. So it's not like he's going to become the next Carragher or whatever. Very quickly then, guys, I suppose, briefly looking at the next leg, dead quick, Mark, do you think Liverpool have got enough to go to Besiktas, get a goal that'll probably put the tie to bed?
If our game after Besiktas wasn't Man City at home, I'd say yes, because it puts him in a in a pretty shit circumstance, really, because what do? Do you go there with a full strength team? Do you look to rotate? I think the most important thing, doesn't matter what team goes out, you just say to them, get the first goal, and then keep it tight and shut the game out. We proved against Crystal Palace that we can get in the lead and shut a game out, which is something that I have worried about Liverpool for a while and the Brendan Rodgers Liverpool team. But we proved at Palace that we can do it. Like I say, it doesn't matter what team goes out, it doesn't matter how we go about it, the setup would be, the team talk would be, get the first goal and then shut the game out. You get that first goal, it makes Besiktas' job a hell of a lot harder. And apart from Toure, their number 7, I don't think they've got that much of an attacking threat against us at all. I personally think we'll go through. It's not going to be easy. It never is with Liverpool, but I do expect us to go through.
And Jack, same?
Yeah, I think it'll be difficult, like Mark said, and the City game doesn't help at all, really, and it's going to make it interesting to see what he does with the team. But we're in a very good position, and I think, like we said earlier, we want to win the trophy this season. FA Cup's probably the biggest chance of doing that as it stands, but if you actually look at the other teams in this competition, again, with us in the form we're in, we can beat anyone, and it's a big game, and to go there 1-0 up is a big bonus. I think it'll be very difficult, but I'd also back us to have the cutting edge and go through, especially, the way we're defending at the moment as well gives us more confidence.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think we'll score, definitely. I'm pretty confident that we'll go there and score, and I might be proven wrong, but I'm not sure they're going to score 3 goals past us. I just don't know if A, they're good enough, and B, we're that team who's going to let that many goals in at the back. So fingers crossed we're into the next round of the Europa, and before that, obviously, we go to Southampton, and we've got about 10 minutes or so just to speak out the Southampton game. I'm looking at the match previews today online, and it looks like Southampton. It says Southampton being boosted by the news that both Shane Long and Morgan Schneiderlin are both back, and they've also got Victor Wanyama back. So they're a good side, Mark. They're probably the surprise package of the season. Most people have them tipped to be relegation fodder after teams, mainly us, Man United, nicked all the best players off them. But this is I remember last year we went to Southampton and that was classed as a big game. But this is a huge game, because if Liverpool don't win this, I think we're about 7 points behind 4th, and
yeah,
you're starting to think, although 7 points isn't massive, there's a lot of teams between you and that position. So yeah, it's a massive game that you probably have to go and win, really.
Yeah, no, it is a huge game all over the sort of 4th place chasing this weekend, because Arsenal have got to go to Palace, which is by no means easy. United have got a so-so game against Swansea, and the big game, the one that everyone's going to be looking at, is our game against Southampton. I think we can get away with a draw. We definitely can't go losing it, but if we can get a win, that would be amazing. I think Southampton, I've got so much respect at how they set up, and just not just their first team, but the whole way the club is run to an extent. And I read a really good article about them and how they sort of foresaw that players were going to leave. But the beauty of the way that they have things at Southampton is that they've already got a massive database, where they've got 3 or 4 players that can replace key players where they were to leave straight away. And they've done that, and they've done that really well. They've lost their club captain, they've lost one of their best centre-backs last year, they've lost one of the best left-backs in the country last year, and they've replaced them with potentially, you could argue, better players. And Koeman has come out recently and said they anticipate some of their better players to leave in the summer, and Schneiderlin being one, Wanyama being potentially another, but they'll probably go out and replace them again. I've got a lot of respect at how they go about things, and I think now, being game week 26, we can stop calling them a surprise team, because they've earned the right to be there. And there's a really good stat out recently that says that as of game week 26, the team that's currently 3rd, there's only been one team that has not finished in the top 4 in a Premiership calendar and got Champions League places, and that was Spurs. And the only reason they didn't get Champions League football is because Chelsea won the Champions League that year, and they got their place instead of Spurs.
So does that mean Man United pretty much, because they're Man U are third, aren't they, 47? So what you're saying is pretty much United, City, Chelsea. If you're going by form and history, they're probably the ones who are going to.
If you're going by form and history, yeah, currently.
So it's us, Southampton and Arsenal, and maybe Spurs are all battling for fourth.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big game. Like it's not been made easy that there's more teams going for this fourth place, and it's not been made even easier that our start was so poor. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at it now where Southampton have got a pretty decent run in. Spurs have got a pretty decent run in. United have got a really hard march coming up. Arsenal will get there just because that's what Arsenal do. And Liverpool have got a pretty tricky run in. But, you know, you've got to look at the positives in any situation. We've got we're an amazing run of form. Rodgers' second half of season is very good. And out of the remaining 13 games left, if we can get 9 wins out of those games, then I think we're pretty much on course. That means we've got 4 games where we can not win. And the way I've looked at the fixtures, this is the one I've got down as a draw. If we can get a win, that's an absolute bonus. But Southampton are very good at home. They've just had 11 days rest, where we've had to play 2 games in that period. They're not playing as well as what they could, and fortunately Pele is not scoring as many goals as what he was at the start of the season. But they're going to be refreshed. They're going to be ready, and they're very, very good at home, and they do not let many goals in.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, Mark. I'm just looking at the stats here, and what you mentioned there. I'm looking at the last couple of fixtures, and there's a lot of nils about when Southampton play. Excuse me. So they drew 0-0 with West Ham. They beat QPR 1-0. I think that was a very late goal. Swansea beat them 1-0. They had the outlier, which was a 3-2 cup defeat away. Sorry, at home at Palace, which was odd. But then 2-1 against Newcastle, 1-0 against Ipswich, 1-0 against Man United, 1-1, 2-0. So like you say, they're not a team that are banging goals in, but they're just about doing enough to win. And similar to us, would you say that their turnaround in form, or I don't know what you call it, their season as a whole really has been based upon the fact that they're very, very tight at the back, and we might find it difficult to break that down. So
hit a nail on the head. They're built from the back, and they're a great team to have defenders in your fantasy football league because they don't let many goals in, and they'll set up exactly the same against us, and we're going to have to rely. Last year it was a very close game, but I think it was a penalty, if I'm right, a Gerrard penalty late on, and it was either a Suarez or a Sturridge goal. It was a very tight game when we went there last year, and obviously the year before that we got hammered. But I am anticipating to be very tight. It'll be a boring game to watch for the neutral. Are we the 4:00 kickoff on Sunday?
No, with the earlier game.
Well, no, sorry, 4:15. It says here. So if we are on TV, it'll be a boring game for the neutral. It'll be very tight, and it'll be maybe just 1 goal in it, or it could be it could be a draw. Like I say, we can't lose. I anticipate a draw. I would adore, and I would quite gladly take a win. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up and lines up.
And Jack, I'll come to you. You're right, by the way. It's 4:15. You're right. I suppose briefly, Jack, because we are running out of time now. Team-wise, I imagine it's not going to be that much different than the Bale game. Really, I suppose a little bit depends on how Coutinho is, but I wouldn't be that shocked if we saw the same 11 or at least maybe 10 of them.
Yeah, I mean, team-wise, it is difficult to call at the moment because you don't know, obviously with the Besiktas game just being 3 days before, and then you've got an even more important game with them a few days later away. It's difficult, but the only potential changes you'd think are maybe Balotelli in, because I think he is really making a difference at the moment. And if you go back to the start of the season where when we had that Spurs game and Balotelli made his debut, everyone said, the Sterling, Sturridge, Balotelli front three is one to get excited about, and you may see a return to that now, I think. Like I say, I mentioned Sterling there. He's the other possible one that may come in at the expense of maybe Lallana or Coutinho maybe. I mean, on the sides, Moreno and Ibe, I think will stay there, unless he feels that he could maybe bring in Markovic for Moreno. But I think I agree with Mark. I think Moreno played very well, and he gives us good balance on that side. That's the only thing I'd say about having Markovic on the left. I think what Moreno does offer, which is very valuable, is good balance. Having a left-footed player on the left side, and the other potential change, I mean, it's the three subs from yesterday really, is maybe Lovren in for Allen and pushing Emre Can up. So, he could do some of them, but otherwise much the same really. I think the squad's really, if you sort of line up, a predicted 18 at the moment, with all the players fit, it's actually very difficult to even get a Lambert on the bench at the moment. I think if he did go sort of unchanged, he'd have Markovic able to be on the bench, Sterling, Balotelli, Lovren, and there are a lot of changes he could potentially make. But I think he knows what he's doing. I'm very confident in Rodgers with his team selection at the moment, and I'm confident going into this game. I think as we've touched on, the only thing that might let us down here is the fact we've had so many games and Southampton haven't played in 11 days, like Mark said. The Europa League is known to sort of hamper teams' sort of league form, and but at the moment, I mean, I've seen a fair bit of Southampton these last few weeks, and they have dropped off. I think they were very lucky to get that result away at QPR. I mean, they were on top, but the cutting edge wasn't quite there. And West Ham, they were pretty poor. I think they're going through sort of more of a rough patch with Pella not scoring goals, and I think they are a team that will, they've done very well. I think they are a top side, but they are the one team I'd say out of that batch going for the top four spaces that I'd say would probably fade away. And I'm pretty confident going into this game that we can get a good result.
You got a prediction? Before we finish?
Yeah, relying on the fitness of the players, but as we've already said, the fitness of the team.
Go for a win, Jack. Predict a win.
Yeah, definitely.
You cannot rule out the narrative out in this one, and you've got the old club captain going back in Adam Lallana. Yeah. You've got Dejan Lovren, and you've got Ricky Lambert. I imagine all three will be in the matchday squad. I can see Lallana starting. It all depends on Coutinho and how he's recovered, but I could probably see him starting. I definitely don't see Markovic playing left wing, but I see Moreno because he will be there as a defensive shield for like the overlapping runs of Klein. For this one, it'll probably be, Allen and Henderson again, because I don't think he could maybe trust Dejan Lovren starting at right centre back at someone like away at Southampton. I think the situation would get to his head where he could trust someone like Lallana to play that game. So I think it will be Shan, Skirtle, Sacco. It all depends at right wing back. Ibe deserves another run out. It was amazing last night, and he has not let us down since. So I can see him probably staying. And obviously, you're going to go Sturridge up top. I cannot see him going two forwards, Balotelli and Sturridge up top away from home. I think that's more likely a home game against a team like a Hull at home, or whoever else we have to come to Anfield. I think it pretty much will be same. It just depends on fitness of your Coutinho. But the good thing is this squad this year, we built on our squad. That's why we sold Suarez and we bought 9-10 players in, is because we now have more than 13 players that we can rely on. You've got Sterling who can come in. You've got people that can come into this team if for whatever reason last minute players fail fitness tests or what.
So Jack thinks we'll win. Mark, what do you think very quickly before we shoot off?
Oh, always win. I would love to win. Predict to win.
Always win. I like it. Always win. So thanks everyone. Thanks Mark. Thanks Jack. Like I say, apologies if the sound isn't as good as usual and what have you. And obviously there's not going to be any video of this as we've been releasing in the past. Probably the same next week until the Redmen guys have got themselves sorted. And I'll have a conversation with Chris and Paul near the time, and going forward, we will definitely be back in the studio. It's just a case of when, not if. I can assure you that. So anyone who misses looking at my ugly mug on the YouTube or Redmen TV people, don't worry, I'm coming back soon. Like I say, thanks Mark, thanks Jack, thanks everyone for listening, and that was TBT Talks. I'll see you later.